And hello, everyone. Welcome to a new episode of Bitcoin Talks, the renamed older blockchain talks. So, in today's episode, we are going to talk a little bit about the. Hold on a second. Not some light. There we go. Much better. So, we are going to talk and start debunking the traditional FUD about Bitcoin. This one topic of today being the well-known FUD that Bitcoin is not backed by anything. That Bitcoin isn't really backed by anything, so that it really doesn't have any value. To start debunking that, I'm going to base myself on an article which has been presented by the Satoshi Nakamoto Institute. I'm going to show you guys here on screen. There we are. As written by Parker Lewis in September 27th of 2019. I'm not going to read the article entirely here, mostly putting out some bullet points and, well, providing some additional context, some pointers, so you guys in the future can refer to this live stream for an extended debunking if someone should make the FUD around you and you want to straighten them out. Or really, I'm going to give the bullet points here so you guys can really say it isn't true because X, Y, Z, A, B, C, etc. So the article itself, it begins with contrary to popular belief, is backed by something, backed by the only thing that backs any form of money, credibility of its monetary properties. Very simple, but that argument alone doesn't really shut people up. The thing here is that basically that one sentence is telling Bitcoin is backed because of its use. That's fairly simple to understand. There are people using Bitcoin as a currency, which makes its raison d'être, its reason to be, as a form of money, valid. Now, naturally, people will always start talking about, yeah, but we are seeing those numbers and market cap, etc., etc., etc. While in reality, it isn't backed by anything. I mean, we might as well be trading rocks, so to speak, and that we just put some properties against those rocks and say, yeah, they're more valuable because they've got a color green or something. So it is an argument, but not a very strong one. You see, what makes a currency and what makes Bitcoin so appreciated, well, functions on a variety of levels. Not only because we accept it to be as a currency, but also because of the underlying technology, the underlying network, and most importantly, the work being done in order to sustain it as a cryptocurrency. And really here I am talking about the effort of people who work with Bitcoin, who use Bitcoin, who are involved with Bitcoin. And that's basically what the article is saying here. So sorry if I'm switching a little bit my view here, streaming on two channels at the same time. So basically the article says, look, Bitcoin Standard provides full discussion, yada, yada, yada. So it really talks about why its reason to be. And then it says, look, from where does the dollar have its value? By reason, we are starting to compare currencies here. And most of the time in this discussion that Bitcoin isn't backed by anything, while the currency as we know it, it might be the dollar, it might be the yen, it might be the euro, doesn't matter. People think that it is being backed by something. And that's true, but both aren't really comparable. So in order to make a valid counter-argument, you need to understand how money evolved. And one of the reasons, mostly for my US viewers, but this as well applies to any other person from any other country, is to know the history of your own native currency. and by what it is backed by. And in a very short terms here, why does the dollar have value? That's basically what this little header in this little document, disproving Bitcoin is backed by nothing, debunking, is trying to tell you. Know a bit of the history of your own native currency. By reason, plenty of people, and I'm not talking about the US alone here, I'm also talking as well about Europe, perhaps Africa, even Asia, Russia, whatever. Plenty of people believe that their native currency, be it the ruble, euro, dollars, are still being backed by physical gold or physical assets. And that's one of the reasons why the article says, look into the history of your native currency. That's why the title reads, why does the dollar have value? And we see here a little timeline of events. And it stops at 1976. By reason? Well, in 1976, the value of the dollar was decoupled from gold in its entirety. That alone was a world-shocking event and is actually being quite silent now about. It is a little tidbit that most Bitcoin maxis know about and frequently counter the question when they say, yeah, Bitcoin is backed by nothing. You can counter a question and say, yeah, but the US dollar as well. And generally, like I said, many people will say, that isn't true, it's backed by gold. No, it isn't. Especially for the US dollar, you will see that the dollar decoupled from gold in 1976, meaning that another system was implemented in order to give value to the dollar. Which system? Well, basically a debt-based issue. And that's basically what the article is saying here a little while later. Over the course of the 20th century, the dollar transitioned from a reserve-backed currency to a debt-backed currency, meaning I owe you money. Most people never stop to consider why the dollar has value in the post-gold era. The most common explanation remains that it is either a collective hallucination, it has the dollar has value simply because we all believe it does, or that it is a function of the government, military, and taxes. Neither explanation has any basis in first principle, nor is it the fundamental reason why the dollar retains value. Instead, today, the dollar maintains value as a function of debt and the relative security of dollars to dollar-denominated debt. The dollar world, everything is a function of the credit system, nominal GDPs, functionally dependent on the size, yada, yada, yada. In short, there's less actual dollars than the dollars which are debt issued, meaning we are dealing with IOUs. And to put it in very clear terms here, this as well applies to the euro and other currencies, however, with a small twist. For the dollar, you need to understand it is debt-based. For example, the nation, I'm going to really downscale everything to make it more clear and simple for you guys. You have 100 US dollars in your wallet, but at the same time, you have an outstanding debt of $1,000 to a family member, for example. That means, in principle, according to the US government, your worth is about $1,100 because of the 100 US dollars in your wallet and the 1,000 that is owed to you by the neighbor. So your total value is 1,100. However, small subtlety here, the only US dollars in circulation are the $100 bill in your wallet. That's it. That's the debt-backed US dollar. In very, very condensed terms, naturally, I am aware there are more functionalities, more subtleties to the entirety of it, but at base level, that's how debt-backed, how the current US dollar works. For the euro, it's a little bit different here. It's partially that, but the euro has been introduced in the early 2000s, and its value is derived and based on the nominal GDP of each separate nation who adopted the euro. meaning that before that in Europe you had a diverse amount of currencies. You had the francs, Belgian francs, French francs. You had naturally the British pound. You had liras, you had marks, etc., etc. And when the euro was established, nations came together, naturally, and said, we're going to make one general currency for all European countries which are involved through the EU, and the euro was born. And it derives its value from the GDP of that nation, expressed in their old currencies, and with some additional sums, has established a value. Now, problem here is, let's head back over towards the US dollar. Problem with the debt-backed system of the US is that money can be printed infinitely because, well, other nations like Europe, like Asia, like Russia, can demand loans from the US government, and they print money and they send the debt towards them, meaning that the dollar increases more or less in value because more debt is being issued. Naturally, it implies also more money is being printed, which inflates the supply, meaning that it becomes less valuable. Now, with the euro, the same thing occurs, but more on nationwide level, meaning that in the beginning, the euro was more valuable than the US dollar. I'm really talking in the very beginning here, early 2000s, 2004, 2005, I believe, when I was still a young boy. We had the euro, 1 euro being worth 1.4 US dollars, meaning with 1 euro, if I exchange it, I had 1.4, almost 1.5 US dollars. Now, with more countries joining the Eurozone and more countries adopting the euro, well, their GDP and their debts, etc., got added to the pool. And what we suddenly saw was that the euro started losing its value. And at current rate, I think we're at about the same value as the US dollar. To complicate matters, and this isn't really much known, because we are an ally of the US, the euro itself is also indirectly linked towards the value of the US dollar, meaning that if the US dollar is losing purchasing power, means the euro is doing so as well. So it's really a cascading effect. That in short, what I want to highlight here is in order to counter this FUD, know the history of your own native currency, how it itself establishes its value. US dollar is debt-based. The euro itself is debt-based as well because there's not really any assets backing it anymore. And it's mostly based on the economic prowess and growth of all countries which are a member of the Eurozone. Very important to remember. So if the Eurozone is seeing a recession at overall, or one country is going through a recession due to bad government decisions, it implies the euro is going to go down in value because it will drag the other countries attached to the Eurozone with it. That was one of the reasons a few years back with Greece and Spain having a recession in their economy and their economies crashing, that suddenly the entire Eurozone was ticking on their fingers and saying, you need to do better, a new government, yada, yada, yada. By reason, the euro was losing power on a global scale as a result of that. So furthermore, to debunk the FUD, here in US dollar, they say, look, that's the debt issued, system-wide, nominal federal taxes, yada, yada, yada. So circulating amount. Basically, what I already said, they're listing up how the US dollar where the US dollar gets its value from, and what reality is. I refer back to the example I gave. Your neighbor owes you $1,000 you have lended to him, but the only amount of US dollars that are in circulation is the $100 bill you have in your pocket. So your worth is 1100, but more than 1/10 is virtual and the other you owe. So yeah, that's debt issued, debt based system. And as you guys can see here on screen, to highlight both, it is a vicious cycle. You get quantitative easing, but naturally, if there's too much debt, you need to create more money, which leads to more debt, which leads to too much debt, which leads to creating more money, and the circle continues. That's why within Bitcoin circles, we say, look, money is printed forever. There's no limit to it. It's infinitely printed. And that applies not only to the US dollar, it applies to the euro as well. Well, any fiat money you can think of, ruble, pounds, doesn't matter. In a sense, they are all debt-based. The sole exception that I know of, and that's one of the reasons why I say you need to look up the history of your native currency. The only exception to this rule is the Swiss franc, by reason that one is the sole currency which is still being backed by precious assets, mainly gold. It's also one of the very few currencies currently around the world which isn't seeing a depreciation in value or loss of purchasing power. Furthermore, what gives Bitcoin its value? Well, money and digital scarcity. This actually is derived from what we learned earlier with knowing your native currency and how it establishes its value. Almost all traditional current sorry where was I? Yeah. So as we learned a few minutes ago, all traditional currencies we know of now are more or less debt-based, and that they can be printed into infinity. Bitcoin is the very first currency which has a max cap, meaning there will ever be a max amount of coins to ever exist. 21 million Bitcoin, and for those who are really uptight, 21 million times 100 million Satoshis, that's the max limit which will ever exist. Why I'm saying this? Because due to another FUD, fear, uncertainty, doubt, another myth I'm going to say is that people say, yeah, but Bitcoin is infinitely divisible, meaning that it can be put into infinitely smaller increments, which isn't true. Smallest increment possible is 1 Satoshi, 1 sat, abbreviated, and that's 100 millionth of a Bitcoin. That's why I'm saying digital scarcity, because there is a max cap on the total amount which can ever exist. And with that, you can refer back towards the infinite pizza glitch, like some might say. You have one pizza, one coin, and it doesn't matter if you divide it in 2 pieces, 3 pieces, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, or even 100 million pieces. All those pieces put together still adds up to one pizza with one hard limit. You wouldn't suddenly have an infinite amount of pizza. Same applies to Bitcoin here. So that's another reason to debunk by saying it has digital scarcity. Scarcity means rarity. It means an increase in value, especially in combination with the knowledge that Bitcoin is being used as a valid currency. And if something is in use, it is in demand, and it is scarce, you can rest assured that the value of it will increase. The more people want something which is scarce, the more valuable it becomes, and you got, well, an automated hierarchy which is being established. Pretty simple to understand. It refers back towards the simple economic principle of supply and demand. Let's continue here. Like I said, I'm doing this in bullet points. And now we come towards the real meet here, and that's what I said at the beginning of this video. To really debunk this fear and uncertainty, that to really debunk this myth that Bitcoin isn't backed by anything at all, we need to look at the network, and that's being introduced here, Secures Bitcoin Network Consensus and Full Nodes. Not going to read it all too much in detail. So yeah, you guys can see here monetary inflation, so the amount of Bitcoin issued over time versus the amount of blocks, which is naturally fixed. What secures Bitcoin, mining and proof of work, yada, yada, yada. Now, why is it important that I'm highlighting this here and not going all too much into detail or reading this article? I'm going to stop it here. The reason is I'm going to delve deeper here through other tabs. The network and naturally the nodes, etc., all refer back towards human effort. Now, what makes a currency is not only human effort in the sense of using it as a currency, but it also derives its value from people working on it. People want to be paid for their time. People value time. It is the amount of effort put in it over time. I mean, it is very easy to create cryptocurrency. We see it each and every day with tons of meme coins hitting the cryptocurrency market on a daily basis. However, they never achieve high value by reason there's billions of coins being minted, and at the same time, very few effort is being indulged in it. Generally, it's just a team of 2-3 people, a little bit of coding. I mean, even Binance back in the day and Ethereum had tutorials on how to set up and launch your very own token in less than 5 minutes. I mean, very little effort needed. Now with Bitcoin, on the other hand, a high amount of Bitcoin is being done and has taken place. Not only are we talking here about Bitcoin, the entire programming of the blockchain. So I'm referring back to Satoshi Nakamoto, who did the research, wrote a paper, wrote the code, made everything airtight. I'm as well talking about those very early adapters, very early miners, very early node runners. From that point on, up until this point on, all those miners, nodes, Bitcoin core devs, all those developers, people who were using it, all of that dedicated time onto the network. The very moment someone says Bitcoin isn't backed by anything, it is backed by nothing, they're absolutely wrong. For the simple reason, there has been a shit ton of effort going into Bitcoin that is being swept under the rug by those peoples. I'm sorry, dry throat. A lot of effort, not only in the development of miners and ASIC systems, ASIC miners, not only in running the software, not only in developing programs, the improvement protocols, etc. Those are all things which are important. And to that, I'm going to even add the additional one, because why the hell not? Both being mentioned here on the screen. Yeah. I'm heading back towards Bitcoin energy consumption, because this is a frequently made argument by people who try to debunk the thought, and they say it is backed by energy. There's people who say nay, others say yes, it is. I'm a bit in the middle. By reason, yes, Bitcoin in a sense is backed by energy, by electricity, and naturally people's effort. However, the mistake many people make is that it is backed one-on-one by electricity, while in reality, the energy consumption is more attached towards the effort people are putting into the network. And well, You shouldn't really one-on-one compare it to it, but it indicates that energy is being used. Energy is money, plain and simple. Each and every time a miner is mining, he's using electricity. A node being run, it's using electricity. If a core programmer is making a new proposal, if they are updating the wallets, energy is being used to run the computers on which they do the manipulations. So there is energy being consumed, yes. Even miners, and I'm really talking out of experience here, one of the most fundamental aspects of being a miner and you want to make profit is that you do a profitability calculation. You are taking energy from the grid you are paying for, and you put it in a machine which spews out, if you've done well enough, Bitcoin. You want that the amount of Bitcoin you earn through mining covers your costs, meaning you have paid for electricity, you are mining Bitcoin, which can cover more or less the costs of mining. Meaning, yes, energy belongs to that equation as an asset backing the network. Because quite frankly, if the electricity is out, I can't transact my Bitcoin. I mean, in theory, I can. But if I don't have an internet connection and my battery is flat and I have no electricity, well, I only have my metal plate and I still own my Bitcoin virtually, but I can't transact them. So I need energy. So Bitcoin is still backed by energy. Energy has a price, meaning that the price of energy decides in certain a certain amount of importance the value of Bitcoin itself. And at the same time, all energy used by the Bitcoin network since its inception up until now is what as well makes Bitcoin as valuable. It means that energy and electricity is really to be considered as a backing asset towards Bitcoin. So I know there are people who are saying, yeah, it doesn't really belong there. In reality, it does. Human effort weighs more than the energy used to date, but it doesn't mean that the energy used to date shouldn't be discounted for, because it's electricity that is being used and is needed to run the network, is needed to transact Bitcoin and to use Bitcoin. So on that account, I will say it is important. Now, as well, yeah, like I said, human effort. What you're seeing here now is total hash rate, is the blue line. Sorry, blue line, black line is current value. And we see terahashes, etc. And, well, hash rate. And people might say, yeah, that's the amount of security on the network. Indeed, security on the network is also a guarantee, is also proof of human effort on to the network from which it derives value, that it is being backed by. It is proof that people use Bitcoin, that it is being used as a currency, and that it isn't backed by nothing. Human effort. And while we might say that the hashes you're seeing here, so the blue line, it's increasing over time, it doesn't necessarily mean that more and more people are onboarded. Despite it being true, also realize miners are getting more efficient. With that, I really want to say, for example, I have an S9 running here in my bathroom as a Bitcoin mining heater. It's putting out about 10 terahashes a second. It isn't much, but modern miners, if I made the investment, I can easily get 200 terahashes a second. It doesn't mean that the amount of participants in the network are being increased. No, it only means that the amount of work I'm adding to the network has increased more efficiently. So by reason those 10 terahashes a second I'm mining up right now is at, I believe, 850 watts. And with the newest miners from Bitmain, etc., the 200 terahashes a second, at about the same electric consumption, so there's more efficiency, but I remain one person. So on that account, I would say that I'm perhaps partially wrong here in showing you guys this graph of the total hash rate of the network, but at the same time, it reflects that effort is being put in, because naturally everyone can switch towards newer miners which are more efficient, use less energy, but have higher hash outputs, securing the network even more. The true most important metric here is this tab. What we're seeing here, hold on for my viewers on YouTube. Ads is a chart of reachable Bitcoin nodes. Do realize each and every node you are seeing here on the chart is one person either mining or being a node runner. Majority are naturally in the United States present. However, as you guys can see, another fair amount, Germany, France, etc. Rank number 1 NA 13,886 nodes, meaning a lot of people are using VPNs. Love to see it. Belgium somewhere. I know my nodes are included somewhere, but it is quite down low on the charts here. I'm going to see if I can, 27, 32. Belgium, see, variety of nodes, but there's only 32. Those are 32 people, well, actually adding towards the network here in Belgium. But like I said, each and every node stands for one person. One person putting in the effort of running a computer which hosts a copy of the entire blockchain. One user who has declared towards the network, hey, you guys, if you make transactions, it passes through my node. I will validate and verify all transactions you are making and communicate it towards the global network. That's a person using energy, doing the effort in order to sustain the network. That's why I would like to say that to really debunk this myth that it isn't backed by anything and really highlight that people are supporting the network and that's where it derives its value from, and that it is backed by something, human effort in combination with electricity, but mostly human effort. Not only, like I said earlier, between the people transacting Bitcoin, but by the people actively mining Bitcoin, by the people actively participating in the network, by running nodes, which is a combination of miners and non-miners, people who develop a variety of wallets, people who are using Bitcoin to make payments or transfer value. It's human effort. And that's more worthwhile than any other asset you can think of. I'm going to head back here, perhaps for some conclusion notes. Secures Bitcoin, like I said, miners contracts solve. That's one of the reasons why I highlighted the mining, so the graphs you saw earlier in the total hash rate, why I was stressing out on nodes, because all of this, what you're seeing on screen here, really comes down to human effort. And in a sense, the article here is really summarizing it as it should be. Bitcoin versus blank. Summary: supply of Bitcoin is governed by a network consensus mechanism and miners perform a proof of work function that grants Bitcoin security in the physical world. Human effort. As part of the security function, miners get paid in Bitcoin to solve blocks which validate history and clear pending Bitcoin transactions. Human effort. Human effort, validating and verifying human effort. The miner attempt to compensate themselves in an amount of inconsistent. If Bitcoin's fixed supply, the rest of the network will reject the miner's work as invalid. Human effort. Supply of currency is integrated into Bitcoin security model, and real-world energy resources must be expended in order for miners to be compensated. Human effort and electricity. So that's about 5-1, I believe, human effort versus electricity. Both are needed for Bitcoin. Both are backing and debunking the myth that Bitcoin isn't backed by anything. Time is money. Effort involves time and work. Hence, value is incorporated indirectly through human effort and time spent by all users of the network. Like I said, if you see someone here proclaiming that Bitcoin is backed by nothing, what they're basically saying is all people who use Bitcoin, who have dedicated their time talking about it, using it, supporting the network, running nodes, mining, developing wallets, even in a certain sense, trade Bitcoin, even though I wouldn't really consider you a Bitcoin maxi if you're a trader. But anyway, all of these people do not matter in the eyes of someone who says Bitcoin is backed by nothing. Because he's saying it doesn't exist, so, it isn't backed by anything. It's not true. Human effort, electricity. With that, I'm going to slowly finish up here the live stream, unless there's another point. No. And with that, I'm going to slowly end the live stream here. I want to thank all of you guys for watching. I hope you find it interesting here from what I was talking about here. Now, if you guys have any other questions, I am going to highlight once again, read the article by the Satoshi Nakamoto Institute, Bitcoin is not backed by nothing. It goes into much deeper detail from what I've been telling you guys. Is, like I said, the purpose of this live stream was to give you a little more in-depth information to debunk the myth, but like I said in the conclusion, it isn't backed by nothing. It is being backed by electricity and, most importantly, human effort. And with that, I want to thank all of you guys for watching. Should you have questions, feel free to reach out to me on my DMs, on my various social media, or even post the questions down below the video. Thank you guys for watching. And up until next time. Now I need to find a way to end the stream here.